Imagine this. You're a store clerk of a dying video rental store. You love what you do and you want to preserve the history of the store you grew up with. But there are barely any customers. Your boss, who you worked for so many years, is giving up on it. Developers want to buy the building and gentrify it, turning it into an apartment complex because of how old it is. Your boss decides to go on a trip to memorialize the store and leaves you with one simple task: to leave your idiot friend away from it. Speaking of Jerry, did I mention that he has a conspiracy theory that the power plant is melting his brain? You decide to help him with this crazy idea to sabotage the plant. As dumb as the idea is, you ultimately get caught trespassing. Who could have seen that coming? In times of panic, what do? You run, leaving your friend behind to get electrocuted throughout the night. So you move on to the next day like nothing ever happened, until Jerry comes back with magnetic powers and erases all the tapes in the store. Okay, so what do you do now? You need to do something or else you're gonna lose the job that you love and let Mr. Fletcher down on the promise you made to him. Then, it hits you. You decide to recreate every single movie that was erased in the store by memory. So, with the help of your magnetic friend and a girl from the dry cleaners down the street, you all set out to recreate all of the tapes for the community's sake. This is Be Kind, Rewind. This title plays on an old slogan that video stores would comically let their customers know to kindly rewind their tapes before returning them. An underrated gem of a film that was released back in 2008, written and directed by Michel Gondry. For this film, he wanted to create an ode to VHS culture and homemade films, showcasing the pure craft of it. In no means is it a perfect film, and you can't put this up against Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but I think the heartfelt nature of Be Kind Rewind is the concept of Sweded.
Custom made, Sweded.
Sweded.
But more on that later. A whimsical and original concept that builds onto the charm factor and the tribute to cinema. The film speaks on the matters of working with what you have and using your imagination to create something unique to you. So, Sweded. What the hell does that even mean? Well, this term was actually popularized by the film itself, which is just another term for a low-budget, homemade recreation of popular movies and TV shows. So if you love the movie Men in Black, this would be your recreation of that film. And these are basically raw recordings that you'd make by yourself or with your friends, where little to no editing is involved whatsoever. It made it easier for them to get these films done and back to the customers as fast as they could.
That wasn't bad. What else y'all got?
And there have been actual film festivals with this type of filmmaking as well. And funny enough, even for the film's marketing, as a true auteur, he wanted to get into his concept of Sweded and make his own trailer for the movie. What a charming man he is. If I can think of 3 words to describe this film, it'd be nostalgic, funny, and charming. It taps into our nostalgia by remembering the early days before Netflix and streaming, remembrance of going to your local video store to rent a movie, to watch with your family and friends. The good old days. But what I appreciate most about this film is the scrappy nature of it. It makes me reminisce about my days in film school when we'd have to shoot our projects over the weekend, working with our limited crew, time, and resources. There's nothing fancy about this film. There was no need for this massive budget. Funny enough, at the same time, this film is also poking fun at big budget films. Ironically timeless. It embraces guerrilla filmmaking, showing that you don't need a lot to create something special. I think one of the overlooked themes of this movie was it being more than just a comedy, when there were depths of emotion that you'll find in the latter half of the film that, as corny as it sounds, it's an uplifting film about friendship, creativity, and the power of community. Where this film shines the most is the charm factor, with the help of the excellent performances by Mos Def, Jack Black, Melanie Diaz, and Danny Glover. The duo of Mos Def and Jack Black is nearly perfect. Between the bickering, their recreations of the films, and the fun that they had together, the chemistry was alive and well. Mos Def is absurdly underrated in this film, portraying a quiet store clerk, but with a lot of passion for what he does, believing in and trying to preserve the history of Mr. Fletcher's store. And Jack Black playing as Jerry. Jack Black knowingly having his manic delivery, doesn't go over the top as he normally does in his other roles.
I'm Steve.
Coincidentally, the same year this film was released, it joined alongside Kung Fu Panda and Tropic Thunder, so no wonder it got overshadowed in his body of work. But in my opinion, this is one of Jack Black's best underrated roles. While watching the documentary, it really seemed like he had a lot of fun making this project with Michelle, and again, it wasn't the most monumental moment of his career, but seeing him making this movie and interacting with the crew seemed like he had a lot of fun with it. Michelle's visual style is dreamy. and has a handcrafted feel to his films. He's not afraid to be imperfect, which is what gives his films an authentic feel. Let's take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind for example. It was handheld throughout the movie, giving it that intimacy into the character's world. It was as if you were watching someone's life through polished videotapes. The handcrafted DNA is definitely there in Be Kind Rewind, but ultimately, Michel did want to keep this film entirely composed and stationary, meaning he wanted to use tripods and composing every single shot versus going all handheld as he did in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. We find the authentic nature in this film to be visually charming. Everything from the set design to the special effects, besides the scene of Jerry getting electrocuted at the power plant, obviously CGI, but still visually stunning. I feel like this film is much more relevant today than it was when it came out in 2008. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it wasn't received well during the timing of this movie. I believe it was ahead of its time. The DIY aesthetic, making your own videos at home, this just screams making YouTube videos for yourself or with your friends. With the film's message, anyone, no matter what the budget, can be a filmmaker too. This has never been more relevant than now. Michel's use of going super practical, utilizing the only resources you have, like using a cheese pizza to showcase blood splatter, cutouts of old cars, and creating an early 1900s look by putting a fan and some string in front of the camera to visually transport you back in time. Embracing the feel of using your imagination with the tools that you have at your disposal just to convey your message visually. I completely forgot about this film, but after a rewatch, this has now become one of my favorite underrated cult classics. And the reason why is because of the sheer charm it radiates. This was such a unique concept at the time, I believe that was just misunderstood when released. And looking back at the trailer, it didn't really do the film's justice by showcasing more of its comedic side, rather than showing more of the emotional depth and the charm it had to it. Even though I felt like this film got a limited release with the amount of theaters it opened to, I wish so badly that the film was able to make back its money at the box office. And after another rewatch, it got me thinking about how relevant this is and how we create on the internet. Low budget, scrappy, and just done within a day. So if you like watching movies about movies or films about filmmaking, then this is definitely up your alley. If you're not a fan of renting movies online, it can be a little bit expensive. There is an app called Hoopla.
Sounds like a lot.
Hoopla is a public library app that you can sign up for free as long as you have a library card. Or you could wait for it to be streaming on one of the bigger platforms such as Netflix, Max, or Prime, or you can sail the 7 seas and pirate it. Don't worry, I will not say anything. You have my word. So if you have an hour and 42 minutes to spare, this is a quick and heartfelt watch. I really hope you enjoy it. Please don't kill me if you don't like it. Let me know in the comments your underrated film recommendations. I don't ask for this much, but if you like my content, please subscribe and like the video because that'll help it get recommended to more people, which would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to help me during my content creation journey, I actually opened up a Buy Me a Coffee. You can add tips there if you want, if you learn something new. No pressure though, you don't have to. Thank you all so much for giving this a watch, and I'll see you in the next one.